It is my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker for this Congress, who is Mr. Gary Kidgell. Gary is the Organising Secretary for the TS in Scotland. He's librarian for the newly established Alex Johnson Library. Gary joined the TS in 1994 as a founding member and president of Dundee Lodge. He is a professional astrologer specializing in esoteric astrology. Gary has written 2 books, The Inner Journey, Pathways to the Higher Self, and Greek Hero Myths, Symbols of Transformation. And he's put in brackets here, both are on sale. He's not a Scotsman for nothing.
I'll get you back.
Sorry, that was rather rude. I beg your pardon.
I don't mind.
Anyhow, I'm very much looking forward to his talk, which is entitled Wholeness, Personal and Planetary. Over to you, Gary.
Thank you very much, Jenny. If I could extend a warm welcome both to everyone seated in the auditorium and our Theosophical friends who are watching online. So, as Jenny said, the talk is entitled Wholeness, Personal and Planetary. We are in the infancy of the 21st century. Developments in science and technology continue to gather pace, as one would expect as humanity is now embracing the Aquarian age. In 2008, the world's largest particle accelerator, the Large Hadron Collider, was established at CERN, Switzerland. The internet and social media connect our world, enabling what earlier civilizations would describe as telepathy. Very soon there will be a multiverse where everyone who enters will possess an avatar, interacting with others in a manner somewhat akin to functionality on the astral plane. Whilst we have witnessed a tremendous upsurge in human scientific and technological capacity, most regrettably, these exterior developments have not been accompanied by a corresponding development in human consciousness. At present, our world is in a state of great turmoil and instability. Political ideologies are becoming increasingly polarized. This being augmented by social media and mainstream media manipulation. Our world is decidedly fractured. We are presently witnessing a terrible war in Ukraine, orchestrated by a monstrous individual presiding over a terrible regime. This truly awful conflict is a threat to global stability, our food chain, and indeed to the very future of our planet. The English rock band Deep Purple have a song entitled Child in Time, containing the lyrics, "See the blind man, he's shooting at the world, bullets flying, oh, taking toll." Due to its geographical location and geopolitical significance, the Ukrainian conflict very rightly receives extensive coverage here in the West. However, conflicts are also ongoing in Yemen, Myanmar, Somalia, Nigeria, Afghanistan, to name but a few, and these too are exacting a painful toll on human stability and life. We witness the appalling trafficking of predominantly young women sold into a living hell of prostitution, a global scandal to say the very least. Yet this matter is barely covered by our major broadcasting corporations, who prefer to feed the masses a diet of soap operas and reality television. As Theosophists, we are aware that our planet is a living, interconnected organism, not only physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Humanity too is a living entity, a chakra within the body of the life that ensouls our planet, the planetary logos. The souls of humanity constitute a very significant part of the consciousness of this greater being. I will digress slightly, apologies to the Spanish translator, My friend and fellow Theosophist, Susan Stephen, emailed me this morning to say that James Lovelock passed away last week. He was, of course, a great proponent of the Gaia hypothesis, taking theosophical concepts into the scientific mainstream. As a living being, humanity currently exists in a very fragmented state. Tribal hostilities prevail. We witness vast wealth disparities between nations, along with an appallingly unjust distribution of wealth within individual countries. Only now are we awakening to the impending catastrophes of climate change and environmental pollution. Despite our world's vast wealth and immense technological capacities, famine is never far away, because these result from the lack of an holistic appreciation of our planet as a living, breathing, interconnected organism. The often catastrophic effects of climate change and the COVID crisis serve as a resounding wake-up call in terms of our encroachment upon and our exploitation of nature. Despite this, the recent flagship COP26 conference in Glasgow created more pollution than any of its precedents. The ravages of the coronavirus have engendered shock, sadness, distress, and fear. A virus transcends all boundaries that humanity has erected, be these political, national, economic, social, or in the form of race, creed, sex, caste, or color. That bit was easy to read out. Of course, it is high time that humanity seeks to transcend these boundaries by realizing our divine origins and interconnectedness. Everyone seated here today is aware of the great universal law of karma, working ceaselessly, endeavoring to bring the universe and all of its inhabitants into a state of balance and harmony. By virtue of this, all aspects of creation may realize their potential. The law of karma ensures the development of the soul, its engagement and enmeshment with matter, and its final liberation from the wheel of rebirth. The subject of karma is immense. Individuals, families, groups, nations, nature's kingdoms, the planetary logos, all possess an accumulation of karma that must be negotiated. I therefore cannot possibly offer a truly accurate discourse in respect of the effects of karma in relation to the circumstances I have outlined, other than to emphasize that, like the plastic that pollutes our oceans and creates devastating effects on our land, these circumstances rather are man-made. In respect of forces beyond our control, we must also have recourse to the great Indian teachings that inform us that each world cycle is subdivided into 4 yugas, or world ages. These constitute a Mahayuga, and 1,000 of these, duration of 4,320,000,000 years, is a single kalpa, or day of Brahman. At present, we are in the Kali Yuga, the dark age. The Vishnu Purana states, when society reaches a stage where property confers rank, wealth becomes the only source of virtue, passion the sole bond of union between husband and wife, falsehood the source of success in life, sex the only means of enjoyment, and when outer trappings are confused within a religion. The estimated date of the completion of the Vishnu Purana ranges from 400 BCE to 900 CE. Regardless of the exact date, no one would doubt the burgeoning presence of these circumstances, certainly here in our developed world. Considering the entire kalpa, the Indologist Heinrich Zimmer states, the progress and decline of every kalpa is marked by mythological events that occur similarly again and again in magnificent, slowly, and relentlessly rotating cycles. The victories of the gods by which they become established in authority over their respective spheres of the universe. The interludes of defeat, downfall, and devastation when they are overcome by the titans or anti-gods, who are their stepbrothers, ever alert to overthrow them. The avatars or incarnations of Vishnu, the supreme being, when he assumes an animal or human form in order to appear in the world as its savior and deliver the gods. These marvels, singular and breathtaking though they must seem when they come to pass, are but the unchanging links in an ever-revolving chain. They are typical moments in an unchanging process, and this process is the history of the world organism. They constitute the standard schedule of a day of Brahma. So Zimmer is emphasizing that the same archetypal circumstances affect humanity again and again under different guises. Indian teachings inform us of divine avatars who appear when required as a means of deliverance. The cyclical description of time found in the Indian Puranas offers a different perspective to our Western, strictly linear and evolutionary concept of time. However, Greek philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle held corresponding beliefs to the Indian tradition, where the arts, sciences, and the perennial philosophy develop to an apogee, then are lost. Examples here being the burning of the Alexandrian library and the closure of the School of Athens. Lost before being restored, lost, restored again through the cycle of the ages. So in the light of our present circumstances, should this information encourage humanity to act in a passive way, awaiting the cycle itself to resolve matters, the descent of an avatar to remedy the situation, the return of a King Arthur here in the UK? In my opinion, the answer is an emphatic no. While such assistance would indeed be manna from heaven, as members of humanity, I believe that we must answer in the affirmative to the biblical question of, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? Am I my planet's keeper? And in doing so, act accordingly. As Theosophists, we are all aware of the ephemeral nature of the events on our planet as phantom apparitions on the wall of Plato's symbolic cave. However, as monads, we are projected downwards into the Maya of the lower worlds so that we may develop and express our spirituality amidst this challenging environment. We are here to unfold the symbolic lotus petals of the soul, enabling the monad to fulfill its evolutionary objective of acquiring spiritual staying power. Service to our fellow human beings, to the lower kingdoms of nature, and to our planet as a whole is integral to this process. We should all endeavor to embrace and express the transcendentals of Socrates, described by Plato as truth, beauty, and goodness. In doing so, we can effect both personal and planetary healing. It is my opinion that as Theosophists, we are not trying to change our physical world in accord with the Shiva-like energies of the first ray of will and power. Rather, as a precipitant to transformation, we seek to change how people think about the world. We can function as Aquarian water bearers, pouring out the symbolic waters of knowledge, whilst, very importantly, demonstrating spirituality in action in our everyday lives. This shall contribute towards the healing of our fragmented humanity, and our spiritually sick planet. To effect healing of ourselves and our world, a revolution is required. Not a revolution in arms, but rather a revolution in consciousness, based upon knowledge of our divine origins and our purpose on earth. There is little doubt that a sea change in human consciousness is required to heal our planet. And by changing ourselves, we contribute to the changing of our world. There is a paraphrasing of Gandhi's writings. It states, "Be the change you want to see." I feel this is important. And whilst we may not possess the necessary Shiva-like qualities to attack and bring down tired, outworn, and morally bankrupt societal structures, we can contribute to the erosion of these by expressing truth, beauty, and goodness. It is a fundamental esoteric proposition that everything comes from within. The challenging planetary conditions that I have outlined, that we all face, all result from orchestrations within the human psyche. The factor of desire and related propensity for power is instrumental here. It is through a transformation of the psyche, where the immortal aspect of our being assumes control, that we and our world can be rendered whole. The various boundaries and divisions found, such as social, national, racial, sexual, will then dissipate as humanity realizes there is one life, immanent and also transcendent of all life forms. I shall now outline ways in which we can contribute here. We can affect change through our thoughts. Madame Blavatsky's theory of hylozoism informs us that thoughts are living things. Our thoughts radiate their expression on mental, astral, and etheric levels, even if they do not reach physical expression. Our thoughts should therefore be selfless and pure. By generating positive thoughts, we become a powerful force for good. It is a common assumption that what humanity can conceive of, we can eventually materialize. This is especially so in our Aquarian age, governed primarily by the seventh ray of ceremonial order and magic. The term magic refers to the ability to give tangible form to something which is intangible or unmanifest. This greatly emphasizes the importance of creative visualization and positive thought relating to the transformation both of ourselves and the planet which we inhabit. Humanity is currently engaged in an economic and political phase bereft of spiritual principles. Our current socio-political mechanisms must, at the very least, be reformed, rendered conducive to the primary objective of our society, universal brotherhood, fulfilling the requirements of the Aquarian age. And central to any such political reform is an underlying awareness of who we are, our purpose on earth, and for humanity to act accordingly. Madame Blavatsky informs us, to seek to achieve political reforms before we have effected a reform in human nature is like putting new wine in old bottles. Make humans feel and recognize in their innermost hearts to what is real, true duty towards humanity. And every old abuse of power, every iniquitous law in the national policy based on human, social, or political selfishness will disappear of itself. Foolish is that gardener who seeks to weed his flower bed of poisonous plants by cutting them off from the surface of the soil instead of tearing them out from the roots. No lasting political reform can ever be achieved with the same selfish men at the head of the affairs as of old. In his work, The Republic, Plato, whom we refer to as a fifth rounder, proposes a new way of government, a utopian city-state that is ruled by a philosopher king, a lover of wisdom and truth. Plato states in this respect, until philosophers are kings, or the kings and princes of this world have the spirit and power of philosophy, cities will never have rest from their evils, no, nor the human race, as I believe. And then only will this our state have a possibility of life and behold the light of day. The philosopher king described by Plato equates with the initiate of Theosophy. Of course, at present, it is far from easy for one possessing such an exalted rank of consciousness to rise through the ranks of a society or indeed a world order, where political, economic, and social endeavors are based upon the sating of desire for matters transient, whilst the metaphorical prisoners are unaware of what lies beyond Plato's symbolic cave wall. However, by undertaking spiritual practices, we can play our own part by sounding the note of the soul, dispensing knowledge of our origins, humanity's interconnectedness, our purpose on earth, thus assisting towards the unshackling of the prisoners. This will help to create new socio-political structures based upon love, kindness, and understanding. The English author, lecturer and parapsychologist Rupert Sheldrake outlines a revolutionary concept of morphic resonance. Sheldrake postulates that memory is inherent in nature and that the members of the various organisms on our planet inherit a collective memory previously generated by their particular species. As members of humanity, we are dependent on social, cultural, and spiritual morphic fields that have been elaborated by our ancestors and indeed ourselves in our previous incarnations. Through meditation, purity of thought, and right action, we can influence those around us by donating positive energies to the associated morphic fields, increasing their potency. When we tread the spiritual path, we attune to the energy reservoirs created by those precious members of humanity who have preceded us. We access and are subjected to archetypal energies related to the experiences of our heroic antecedents. We also donate further energy towards the related morphic fields, increasing their potency for the benefit of humanity and our planet. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi spoke often of the positive, peaceful global transformations that would naturally result when as little as 1% of the world's population practiced the transcendental meditation technique. In 1975, the results of the first scientific research here were announced. The evidence indicated a statistically significant reduction in crime rates in 12 American cities when 1% of each city's population practiced the TM technique. The Maharishi then is referring to a process where a critical mass engenders a positive evolutionary outcome. On this basis, and in accord with Sheldrake's concept of morphic resonance, I am suggesting that the greater number of people engaged in meditation, in acts of spiritual transformation, expressing unconditional love and compassion for other life forms, the greater the potential towards healing ourselves and our world. The great Indian sage Patanjali spoke of the rain cloud of knowable things. And when we engage in our spiritual disciplines and practices, we are helping to assemble this metaphorical rain cloud, which one day shall precipitate. If we are to heal ourselves and our world, we must be aware of the underlying intent of the greater beings within which we reside. We may then cooperate with their evolutionary intent. When considering the mechanics of creation and how we may affect both personal and planetary transformation, it's important that we are aware of the function and purpose of the 7 rays, the great cosmic builders whose energies activate, construct, and maintain our universe. In the stanzas of Jeanne, the 7 rays are described by various terms, including the Ahi, the primordial 7, the first 7 breaths of the dragon of wisdom, and Dhyani Chohans. Theosophy informs us that the solar logos is governed by the 2nd ray of love wisdom. As monads, we are cells that constitute the consciousness of this vast being. If humanity can fully absorb and realize this fact, it can provide great expansions in consciousness and an ideal for living. And the extent which we cooperate with the intent of the great solar being determines our own spiritual growth. Part of this intent is to express second-ray qualities, including teaching, healing, and service. The second ray rules the heart chakra. Therefore, there is a particular emphasis upon expressing love and developing right human relations. Goodwill, unconditional and inclusive forms of love, compassion, empathy, mercy, and forgiveness are fundamental aspects of second-ray expression. These are of primary importance in terms of our personal and our planetary healing process, and also in the articulation of socio-political structures conducive to a harmonious world where love, compassion, and kindness prevail. I cannot overemphasize the importance of developing and expressing compassion in our everyday lives. Compassion is rooted in the expression of the one life. When we feel and express compassion for other life forms, human or otherwise, we stir the petals of the heart chakra. We also exert a powerful and potentially transformative effect upon ourselves in the lives of others. We should also seek to practice harmlessness in our thoughts, our speech, and our actions. The requirement for us to practice harmlessness is based upon the realization that all forms are aspects of the one life. The practice of harmlessness also prevents us from creating difficult karma as we are confronted by life's challenges, whilst it also serves to promote right human relations. Harmlessness implies vegetarianism, reducing our carbon footprint, sourcing our food and clothes in environmentally friendly ways, avoiding the exploitation of others and our world in general. Thus, Madame Blavatsky emphasizes the requirement to feel and deepen our hearts, to express the qualities of the heart chakra, thereby sounding the dominant note within our second-ray solar system. The great Bulgarian spiritual teacher, Peter Dunov, states, "One day love will stand above everything. It will wipe out all defects. It is the only power that sets everything to rights. Leave everything to love. It will put everything right." The renowned rock guitarist Jimi Hendrix stated, "When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace." The archetypal energies of the seven rays manifest in cycles according to the divine intent. At present, the sixth ray of idealism and devotion that governed the age of Pisces is passing out of manifestation. We witness a decline in devotional forms of religious worship and in the number of monasteries. The seventh ray of ceremonial order and magic is rapidly coming into manifestation. Both individually and collectively, humanity should now seek to align itself to the energies and intent of this ray, always underpinned by the forms of second ray expression, i.e. coming from the heart, that I have outlined. Aquarius is symbolized by the water bearer, dispensing the waters of knowledge, hence knowledge over belief. In the age of Aquarius, we can expect an increase in the use of ritual in spiritual matters and various efforts to express the powers latent within humanity, this being in accord with the energies of the seventh ray. The New Thought movement that coalesced in the United States in the early 19th century is a forerunner to the expression of our powers latent within. Very sadly, this has been followed by a spiritually immature, bastardized, and spiritually dangerous contemporary practice and New Age practice of manifesting. This is bereft of a sound metaphysical paradigm and moral code. The famous saying of Ramana Maharshi, "Desire nothing for the separated self," is very applicable here. as indeed it is in all aspects of our lives. Aquarius rules group activity, emphasizing further the requirement of right human relations, including within groups such as our own. Spiritual groups will play an important part in promoting expansion in consciousness in the new age. Humanity itself is governed by the fourth ray of art and harmony through conflict. We are the fourth kingdom of nature, functioning on the fourth globe within the fourth round of evolution within our earth chain. And the essence of the fourth ray is conflict. Its resolution is harmony. You can see it depicted on the image here. When conflict is engendered by the fourth ray, it leads to a crisis. When the crisis is resolved, a greater level of harmony is attained. The objective of the fourth ray is to teach people the art of living. By that we mean expressing the perfect interplay between pure spirit and dense matter. Outer effects of the fourth ray include the wonderful architecture and art forms of ancient Egypt and the Italian Renaissance. So the energies of the fourth ray induce crises that mount before then being resolved. And upon resolution, a plateau of harmony is attained as one's vibrations are elevated. And this is what we mean by harmony through conflict. And importantly, this is applicable to humanity, both individually and collectively. And the great antidote to the challenges induced by the fourth ray is another heart chakra quality, discrimination, the viveka of the Indian teachings, discrimination between self and not-self, real and the unreal. And before we can experience the love and inclusive qualities of the heart related to the Buddhic plane, discrimination must be present. At present, humanity, at least from where I'm standing, appears to have lost sight of its divine origins and its purpose. The famous allegory by Idris Shah, found in his work Tales of the Dervishes, describes a strange sleep which causes the king's son to forget his mission, whereby his spiritual objective is forgotten. And humanity is effectively asleep, collectively awaiting the equivalent of the message in this story sent by a strange means, which states, "Awake, for you are the son of a king sent on a special undertaking, and to us you must return." The return entails us connecting with and expressing the qualities of the soul on behalf of the king or the monad. It is in the process of return, treading the path, by undertaking spiritual disciplines and practices, by negotiating past karma, by overcoming the many tests imposed by the higher self to ascertain our worthiness as its instrument of expression, that we may effectively heal ourselves and contribute to planetary healing. Madame Blavatsky informs us, there is a road steep and thorny, beset with perils of every kind, but yet a road, and it leads to the very heart of the universe. Theosophical teachings have been bequeathed to us by those who have successfully trodden this steep and thorny road, so that we may effect the self-same process. This is the process of yoga, whereby via the soul, we align ourselves to the intent of the great planetary consciousness which we are a part of. And in doing this, we change both ourselves and our world in positive, evolutionary ways. We are advised to undertake the related spiritual disciplines of study, meditation, and service. And when we tread the path, we do so with a pure heart for the benefit of all. Madame Blavatsky informs us that nature gives up her innermost secrets and imparts true wisdom only to one who seeks truth for its own sake and who craves for knowledge in order to confer benefits on others, not on one's own unimportant personality. When traveling the steep and thorny road, we seek to effect what Carl Jung described as wholeness, This is the goal of his individuation process. This entails the unification of the conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche into a single coherent whole, included within the unconscious as the soul or higher self. To effect this, our existing personality or ego, with its various attitudes, predispositions, complexes, desires, and attachments, must be effectively deconstructed and reassembled at a higher point of consciousness. The alchemical motto, solve et coagula, describes this process. Solve refers to a breaking down of components, and coagula relates to their reconstitution in a more purified form. This enabled the alchemist to obtain the philosopher's stone, a symbol of the awakened higher self. The achievement of Jung's wholeness enables the higher integrating factor within the psyche, what Jung calls the self, what we refer to as the soul or higher self, to realize its objective of expressing its intent on behalf of the planetary logos. Jung's individuation concept mirrors the higher initiations described by Theosophy. And as we seek spiritual transformation, treading the path, we then contribute to the evolution of the planetary and solar beings that we reside within. The process of yoga that I mentioned earlier, where one yokes one's consciousness to that of the greater being that one is a part of, is taking place at human, planetary, solar levels and beyond. Jung illustrates that wholeness is related to mandala images. The Sanskrit word mandala means circle, a symbol of wholeness, unity, and infinity. The astrological natal chart is our personal mandala, a map of the psyche, our personal route to wholeness. The soul incarnates in response to the will of the planetary logos. It chooses appropriate astrological conditions that are conducive to the fulfillment of its purpose for the life in question, this always being aligned to the planetary intent. The round table of Arthurian legend functions as a mandala symbol, representing the psychological wholeness that the questing Grail Knights seek. They enter the forest of adventure, a symbol for the subjective realms of the psyche, questing for the Holy Grail, a divine receptacle offering healing, bliss, and transformation to those who attain it. It's a symbol of the soul. The Ouroboros is the basic mandala of alchemy. It symbolizes infinity, primordial unity, together with the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And of course, as we all know, the dragon, serpent, and wraps the interlaced triangles of our logo. The triangles depict wholeness, the unification of soul and personality, with the central Egyptian Ankh symbolizing the triumph of spirit over matter. In astrology, the sign of Capricorn rules mountains and initiation. It is symbolized by the mountain goat who can cling to a narrow precipice on the cliff face whilst all around is crumbling. And when we embark on our spiritual journey, there will be times when we are required to do this metaphorically as the soul tests us, teaching us the sheer and utter futility of identifying with the transient circumstances of the outer world and its material trappings. And we must bear in mind when we tread the path, the higher our ascent of the symbolic mountain of initiation, the greater our capacity to serve our planet due to our enhanced vantage point. We become more closely connected to the intent of the planetary being within which we reside. Capricorn and its ruling planet Saturn govern patience, endurance, burdens, difficulties, isolation, and long delays. This astrological archetype rules self-discipline, responsibility, and success of an enduring nature. Capricorn and Saturn rule the dispensation of karma. They rule psychological synthesis and integration, which is very important if we are going to be successfully infused by the energies of the soul. It is little wonder then that this is a sign of spiritual initiation in terms of what I've been outlining. As Theosophers, we are aware of the immense tests and trials that the prospective initiate undergoes prior to the reward of initiation and the opportunity to consciously participate in the divine plan through service. These are depicted par excellence by the temptation of karma mara that Prince Siddhartha negotiates prior to obtaining enlightenment. The denouement here is the attainment of Buddhahood and a life of sacrifice through service. After undergoing various disciplines, encountering many different teachers, Siddhartha arrives at the Bodhi tree. He seats himself beneath the tree and assumes a meditation posture. He vows not to rise from this until he attains perfect enlightenment. At dusk, the demon Mara tries to deflect him from his goal. Firstly, he sends his 3 beautiful daughters to seduce him, but Siddhartha remains unmoved due to the power of his concentration. Mara then assails him with an army of hideous and terrifying demons before attacking the prince himself. On each occasion, the force of Siddhartha's concentration proves too strong. This is because his consciousness is centered at what is described as the immovable spot in the legend, the interface between creation and transcendence. Siddhartha remains in meditation until dawn, when he attains perfect illumination, becoming the Buddha. The Buddha is faced with 2 choices. He can either enter the blissful state of nirvana immediately, or he can temporarily renounce this to remain on earth, to teach the ways of enlightenment to others in service. After 49 days, the god Brahma implores him to choose the latter option. The Buddha decides to stay on earth, traveling and teaching the lessons of his illumination to others. This is the pinnacle of second ray expression, second ray of love wisdom. And whilst it is most unlikely that any of us shall attain Buddhahood in this incarnation, I hope nobody's going to shout out, speak for yourself. We proceed in our spiritual endeavors in the knowledge that we undergo similar archetypal challenges and that there is great spiritual reward through an immeasurably enhanced capacity to serve that awaits us at the end of our journey. And when we face these challenges on the path, we should remain aware that in our acts of spiritual expression, we are depositing energies into what is sometimes described as the cosmic bank of the soul, and this will benefit ourselves and our planet. We undertake our spiritual practices as a means of leading our consciousness to the immovable spot of the Buddha legend. This is the 8th limb of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the state of samadhi, described often in the West as cosmic consciousness. So whilst treading the path is very arduous and most challenging, Madame Blavatsky informs us, there is no danger that dauntless courage cannot conquer. There is no trial that spotless purity cannot pass through. There is no difficulty that strong intellect cannot surmount. For those who win onwards, there is reward past all telling, the power to bless and save humanity. For those who fail, there are other lives in which success may come. In terms of promoting planetary wholeness, I feel it's also necessary to mention that our children are our future. In accord with the second ray of love wisdom, it is very important that our children are provided with a suitable upbringing and education. It is imperative that children grow up within a loving, stable, nurturing environment This enables him to grow into psychologically integrated adults capable of expressing the intent of the soul. Educational methods must allow children to develop and express creativity, to appreciate and engage with nature as a manifestation of the underlying one life, to love and respect all life forms as expressions of the divine. As Theosophists, we witness the acclaimed educational methods of Maria Montessori and Rudolf Steiner, two people with theosophical backgrounds. On 21st of January, 1961, I can almost remember this, but not quite, John F. Kennedy took the oath of office to become America's 35th president. His inaugural address inspired both children and adults to view the importance of civic action and public service. JFK famously said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." And my exhortation to all global citizens, based on what I've been saying today, is founded upon JFK's famous quote, "Ask not what our world can do for you, ask what you can do for our world." So in this presentation, I've attempted to outline ways in which we may seek to effect personal and planetary healing within a very challenging global environment. It is my hope that what I have said today will provide food for thought, perhaps inspiration to everyone who is seated in the auditorium and those who are watching online. We live in very challenging times. However, this is a period of great spiritual opportunity. I'm going to conclude with a very short poem, which is my very favorite one. It was written by Christopher Fry, taken from his verse play, A Sleep of Prisoners. I feel this is a very inspiring little poem. 3 verses, not too long. So, the human heart can go to the lengths of God. Dark and cold we may be, but this is no winter now. The frozen misery of centuries breaks, cracks, begins to move. The thunder is the thunder of the flows, the thaw, the flood, the upstart spring. Thank God our time is now, when wrong comes up to face us everywhere, never to leave us till we take the longest stride of soul we ever took. Affairs are now soul size. The enterprise is exploration into God. Where are you making for? It takes so many thousand years to wake, but will you wake for pity's sake? Thank you.
On your behalf, I'd like to thank Gary for what I think was a very inspiring talk. You covered a lot of ground, and I think you affected everybody here. Now, we've got about 5 minutes. If anybody has got a question for Gary, he's happy to answer questions.
When you said that you don't think that everyone will have opportunity in this lifetime to spiritually get enlightened or awakened, does it mean that you don't really believe in the power of personal development and psychological self-help tools?
Absolutely not. Of course not. I mean that the path, spiritual path, is a very long journey. The life, the Buddha, the wisdom teachings inform us that the Buddha is the most enlightened soul ever to incarnate on our planet. It doesn't, I apologize if there was any inference that we should simply give up and say the path's too hard. Rather, yes, the path is hard, but we do it for the benefit of humanity, our planet, the solar system that we are a part of, or in Christian terms, we do it for God. So absolutely not. Personal development is great. I think any practice that draws one closer to the soul is wonderful. I don't want to over elaborate and over complicate. I'm very happy to talk to you at the end, if that's okay.
Thank you. We have a question from Mike.
Gary, do you see the ultimate healing oneself is where the physical form will be totally transfigured into a body of light, which I believe was taught by the Nassenes, who were described by Madame Blavatsky as a kindred spirit? Do you see that, for example, the future, we wouldn't die in the way that we expect to die in this lifetime? I'm just painting a picture of how things may change in the future, because healing oneself is only in this life a temporary situation, but in terms of permanence, it'd be a complete transfiguration of the human form.
Well, what the Essenes are describing is simply the higher initiations of Theosophy. They're using different terminology, obviously. And in terms of a body of light, well, we are here to express the intent of the soul. You know, it takes many lives to do so. Some Theosophical writings say 777, but this can be accelerated. But going through the higher initiations, obtaining a liberation from the wheel of rebirth, then effectively that last incarnation, the way things were expressed, that life does not effectively die, because it is a soul, a fully developed soul expressing itself through the body. Whereas Gary Kidgell, when Gary Kidgell passes on, there'll be another life, so on. So that there wouldn't be an effective body of light in Essene terms, unless something cataclysmic happens, you know. If this
Okay. Any more questions, please?
We have also some online questions.
Okay.
So the first question is about the evolution of our planetary system. So if our planetary system of evolution, we are under the second ray, love wisdom.
the solar system is second ray, the planet is third ray.
Okay, I'll go up to the end.
Okay,
because
yeah.
I'm not sure. So if our planetary system of evolution if for our planetary system of evolution, we are under the second ray, love wisdom, are other planetary systems of our solar system similarly influenced by the same ray?
Good question. The wisdom teachings talk of life within life. You know, there's Madame Blavatsky's proposition of hylozoism, that all things live. Then we say that all things live within the body of a greater being. And the souls of humanity constitute the consciousness of the planetary logos, which is in effect a chakra within the solar logos, which is a chakra within a greater being. Our monads constitute or contribute to the consciousness of the solar logos, which is second ray. So that is the overriding form of expression coming from the heart, unconditional love. Love wisdom, love wisely applied, wisdom lovingly applied. Our planet is third ray. Third ray is associated with very diverse forms of experience. And of course, when the soul takes on its evolutionary journey, it's seeking every form of experience that life in form on this planet can offer. And, you know, I would attribute that more to a third ray thing, but the key is the second ray, love wisely applied, wisdom lovingly applied, coming from the heart and the various things that I outline, because that is really what the journey of the Theosophical monad is all about.
So the second question goes like that. Danielle Audouin says in her book that there is a liberation that is an attainable goal. And it is liberation from the empire of the self, liberation from identification with a personality. This is easier to do than becoming the Buddha. Do you think that the members of the Theosophical Society can do this?
Well, we're all part of an organization with an objective as noble as any upon our planet. It is the souls, our souls have drawn us together. You know, it is part of the soul's development. And yes, we can function as souls, which in simple terms is all about getting the ego out the way so that the soul can express its intent. In the voice of the silence, Madame Blavatsky in fragment 1 uses the analogy of the potter on the wheel, you know, because the soul is seeking to shape a personality that will function as a perfected instrument of expression, which is basically what the question is describing. Yes, of course, it takes many lives to do this, but encouragingly, we see in transpersonal psychology a lot of practices that were before were the province of esotericism here in the West, and of course, which were greatly elaborated upon by Theosophy, which provides a paradigm which I've emphasized before, can regenerate our world religions, psychology. It can provide an advanced point for science, sorry. But yes, what the lady is describing, absolutely. And, you know, it is all about functioning as a soul. As I used the Ramana Maharshi quote to denigrate New Age practices of manifesting, but that holds true for everything we do. Desire nothing for the separated self, because of course at the soul level we are as one. That my soul and your soul are the same, whilst our souls have a different evolutionary history and pool of karma. Because they're all part of the planetary consciousness, they're ultimately seeking to achieve the same thing, as are our monads at a higher level. It was a complete joke about the Buddha thing. I just think it's a wonderful illustration of the path and service of, you know, of.
Anyhow, Gary, once again, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Jenny.